Hey guys, it's Mrs. D. I just wanted to make you guys a little video because we made it! It's Thanksgiving break. Woohoo! We got here. I think we were all a little nervous that the world would implode before Thanksgiving and just it wouldn't happen. But I know it's also mixed with a lot of stress and potentially a lot of sadness because I don't know how many of you are seeing the family you normally see. I don't know if you're doing what you normally do, and that's going to be its own upsetment. So for today in class, we are focusing on Day of Gratitude. Unless you're the juniors, you technically have a quiz first. Sorry. Couldn't resist. You're done with part 2 of the book now. We can start clean after the long weekend. I didn't assign any homework over the long weekend, and I didn't really want to do a lot of work today in class because you guys need to breathe. You're hearing a lot about things like social emotional health, gratitude, wellness. Maybe they're buzzwords to you. But if you don't try the practices, I don't know that you can ever reap any benefit from them. And frankly, it's really good for teachers to do it too. I think one thing that you guys may not always understand about your teachers is that something that you are being raised with, you guys are being raised actively with this kind of focus on wellness, this focus on being in the moment, this focus on emotional health. But we weren't. Your teachers are older. They're from various generations. Some of them as old as boomers, some of them older millennials like myself. And depending on when they were raised and who raised them, they weren't exposed to the same things that you were exposed to. So some of us are coming to these concepts in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, and really trying to figure out how it meshes with how we were raised and how we were taught to understand the world, and realizing the value in it and trying to do better by you guys than what was done by us. I was still raised very stiff upper lip, very don't complain about it, don't cry about it. If you're going to cry, go somewhere else because we don't really want to hear about your crying. And honestly, I struggle with that, with my own kids. When is the line of tell me about your feelings the appropriate line versus you're having a tantrum for no reason, please go do it somewhere else. It's hard. It really is. If you guys haven't, you need to turn off the distractions today for at least give yourself some form of time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, something. Turn them off. Feel just everything in your life that you're happy about having. I'm happy for you guys. You guys are working hard. All of you working hard in your own ways. Some of you working with the very real struggle of this year has made you different than you're used to being. And you don't really know how to talk about that. So I had kids that came up, and more than one. So if you were one of these kids, understand you are totally not alone. But I had more than one kid come up at the tail end of the marking period and just go, everything is in chaos and I don't know how to manage it. That's why I'm not doing well. And it's okay, I can deal with that. I can help with that as much as I can. I can make accommodations. I can find other ways around it. I get stressed about a lot of this school year too, and I get stressed about a lot of other things. I get stressed about my unfinished kitchen. But there's food in those pantries. And there's a roof that's not leaking over my head. And there's a crazy dog down here that just pooped in my mother's house when I dropped my children off, and yet is still a very sweet, loving dog. We're very happy to have a dog back in our lives. It brings a weird amount of joy. We didn't realize how sad we were about not having a dog until another dog came along. I'm happy for those crazy kids. My son has effectively thrown my back out. It's been 4 days since my back hasn't hurt because he's very big and he throws his weight around and he koala cuddles mommy and then throws himself at something to grab, effectively taking my back with him. But he's growing like gangbusters, and I was terrified having a small baby in 2020. I was terrified. He was born only a few weeks before the lockdown. And I remember going oh, I'm really happy I had a baby before the lockdown. Really happy I had him before the lockdown. And then I was oh my God, there's a global pandemic and I have a small baby and they are a pre-existing condition. Like they are just one big ball of pre-existing condition. It's very dangerous for them to get any kind of respiratory disease. And he's closer and closer to a year old, closer and closer to being kind of out of that danger zone. And that's good. My daughter's healthy as a horse. That's good. I haven't turned completely gray in my hair. Almost negative. I'd look stunning with gray hair. I think we can all agree. We had health scares this year on top of everything else. And I think probably because of everything else. The stress of this year took its toll on both my husband's and my body. And we were just both sick at some point. But it makes you really appreciate your spouse. I really don't know when I look at him and he's having a bad day. I think, I really don't know what I would do if something happened to you. And he said that the day he dropped me off in the emergency room for my own emergency surgery, and they wouldn't let him in because it was the height of the pandemic. They wouldn't let him in. So he had to drop me off and just sit there hyperventilating in a car, terrified for a couple of hours, and then days of not being able to see me, not being able to come in. I'd be sleeping on whatever painkillers they gave me, and I wouldn't even answer the phone, because I'd be asleep, and it would terrify him. He's like, I truly realized I would not be able to raise these children without you. You would have to, I don't know what I would do. I'd have to move out of the house and move in with my sister or your mom or somebody. They'd have to help me. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm happy about my new house, happy about having a yard. It's settled in a lot of trees, which is exactly what I always wanted. I just want to look outside of my window and see trees and leaves. I look up in the morning and at night and I see the stars. And there's something close to normalcy, where I can trick myself that things are normal, because there's a couple of shows I really like watching. And there's a couple of, things on the horizon coming, they're not far away anymore. Sure, I won't be able to go to a Saturday night showing or a Friday night showing of Black Widow. That's not happening, probably ever. They're going to just eventually break and put it on Disney Plus, but there are worse things in the world. You guys are working incredibly hard, and all of us are trying really hard to maintain a good balance for you between things that challenge you and engage you enough while you're at home so that you feel like you can keep working, balanced out with things that aren't so hard that you get confused on your own. That's really tricky because I can't see any of your faces and I don't know how you're doing with it. So I'm trying to gauge this blind. It's like Helen Keller teaching. It really is. I can't see you guys. I can't hear you guys. I am teaching by touch right now. I'm teaching just basically looking at my computer keyboard, touching the keys, going, what do I think is happening? Stressful. It was very, very stressful. I've never had such an appreciation for people who are sensory deprived, because it takes out such a huge part of what we do. But you guys seem to be managing. And every time one of you reaches out and says thank you or says I got it or just touches base is really meaningful. And a few of you have done it. But most of you don't, which is totally normal. That's teaching. If I have 120 students, 2 of you will tell me that I did a good job, if I'm lucky to. But I appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing, all the skills you're developing, managing the different times, being on your own. It's hard. So I appreciate you guys a lot. And I wanted you to know that. And have a happy Thanksgiving, however you're having it. Be thankful for what you got. It's certainly the year that we should all be thinking about that.